Alright guys, Kremp again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. One of the biggest dramas of the CDL season so far unfolds in plain view last night, with Toronto remarkably forfeiting their series against the Boston Breach on the third map of the series, and everyone hits the timeline to explain exactly what went on and call out some certain people, not just from the league, but also potentially on Toronto themselves. That was certainly Drazah's perspective on the situation. We'll get to that in a second, because it seems there has been some interesting things afoot behind the scenes that have led to this point over the last several weeks. Toronto certainly have their perspective. The CDL is not doing enough about the server problems that the teams are trying to deal with behind the scenes. Others have their own perspective on the situation, but Toronto, they decided to take a stand last night and forfeit the series and bring all this into the public attention. Very much interested to your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I'd greatly appreciate it. Just first of all, OpTic, of course, have played their 2 games for the weekends. They have won both. Kind of remarkable in the first one, obviously, against Kenny's new team, and then Cloud9 was a pretty dominant win yesterday. Kenny's new team plays again today, so Minnesota Rocker back in action. They could have had a big 10 points on the board the other day against OpTic. They did not, and therefore today, especially because they play Boston, is a massively important matchup in the context of World Championship qualification, I would say, this year. Just to look at some numbers on Huke, because look, he didn't play in December. Well, he did after Pred was removed, and then he obviously played through January, and then 1.15 KD so far in BO6. He's got the number 2 KD in the league, presumably behind Cellium this year so far. Highest LAN KD since London 2020. It just looks like BO6 is his type of game. And is that a surprise? Not really. I mean, it was kind of expected before the season began as well. And well, what will make OpTic and potentially Huke kind of happy, because I'm sure Huke's looking at his current OpTic situation and thinking, damn, are they going to drop me again at some point? But next year's title is meant to be pretty similar to this year's, as in the Omni movement is not going away. There are rumours that Omni movement as a movement mechanic concept is not going to go away at all. Like, it's going to stay in COD as it is for years to come. And if that's true, then, well, some will be happy, some potentially will not be. But let's talk about the drama, baby, because last night Boston played Toronto, and don't know if you guys remember a series that was played at the start of, was it last year's game, actually, Modern Warfare 3, where Toronto were looking real good online in the early stints. That, of course, is when Scrap was on the team. They played Boston in an online series and got 3-0 slams, and it was all rather confusing. So whenever you look at the series Boston-Toronto, there's always some sort of issues with the servers and the way that they play. And look, because when you see the series, you think, oh, Toronto's a better team, they should win. But unfortunately, with online CODs, there's always something else going on. And game 1, Boston slammed. Now look, I don't want to take anything away from Boston. They played super well this series, and it's a massive 10 points for them as well in the context of the World Championship. They're now at 120 points, I think, Boston, which is big. We can actually just have a quick look at it now, because I just want to nail home this point on how important some of these matchups are right now. OpTic, their 2-0 weekend was big. They get to 130. Rocket are at 90. Cloud9 at 95. Miami at 110. Boston at 120. So it's really all to play for down at the bottom here, and every 10 points you accrue is huge. So, Boston's win against Toronto in this context is important in many respects. But game 1, Boston smoked him. Game 2 was pretty back and forth, and then eventually Snoopy clutched a big time 1 versus 2 here. Takes down Insight in a 1v1. You don't often see Insight losing 1v1s, but you can tell, I mean, immediately, that Toronto super frustrated on multiple angles. Now, after the game 2, the game goes, I mean, here we are again. The game goes to a coming back soon, or coverage will resume soon, rather than resume in due course, or like giving us a countdown or anything, right? Now, clearly, you look at the guys on Toronto's faces, they're not very happy with something. I mean, let's not forget, they literally just beat FaZe the other day, so they're playing some good COD right now. But in this series, they were getting clapped, and they clearly were not happy about some of the reasons as to why. So, we then start to get some tweets hitting the timeline. We've got Beans here with the chimp one reading the book. This was doing numbers last night, this graphic. And then we had this, of course, from BP, being like, oh, here we go again, right? Ultra pulling the plug to get some sort of reset cheese. Now, this is the reality of online Call of Duty, that servers play a massive role in the way that things are. If you're struggling on a particular server and you're, either your ping is higher or you're rubber banding, as Toronto say that they were, then you know, you're kind of cooked. There's not much you're going to do in a league this competitive right at the upper echelon of things. So then we go to this big break. Nothing happens for ages. I wasn't really sure if it was server stuff or there was something, obviously it was server related stuff to some degree, or exactly what was going on. And, you know, Octane says, get an ISP upgrade as Toronto are figuring this whole thing out. And then I think it was this tweet from Toronto that kind of first kicked off and said, yeah, see you next weekend. So they basically just said, yeah, we're done for the day and we're going to call it off. Now, this is pretty crazy. We don't often see this. I'll just share Boston Cammy's tweet first here because you guys remember what happened back at MW2 when Scump was still on OpTic and the SAE drama happened on FeLo control and Cammy called in. Basically, there was a glitch that happened. They wanted to get a replay. OpTic weren't very happy about it and they were so fuming they just forfeited the series. It was kind of remarkable. And Cammy now says, yeah, in my career, 2-0 on CDL forfeits. This is way too easy. Dashy says you're alright after map 2. Justin's different, right? Of course, a similar thing happened in the control a good couple of years ago. So, what's going on here? Why did it happen? We start with this tweet from Drazah, really. This was the first tweet that kicked a few things off. So Drazah says, this is what happens when you use exit lag. Now, exit lag is a software that seems many of the teams are using, and this has obviously been a known thing by the players, but not really to the community until 8 hours ago, as this tweet goes live here from Drazah, talking about, well, effectively it's a software that can improve connection to certain servers and deal with some of the issues associated with that. Reportedly, many teams use this, and the league is presumably aware that teams are using this software to, you know, I wouldn't call it exactly give themselves a competitive advantage, but certainly to try and remove some of the disadvantages of doing online COD. It seems like the CDL's aware of it. They may not be especially happy about it, but it's something that is being done, we think, by multiple teams. So that's kind of the talking points overnight. Clearly, Drazah, the implication to me from this tweet is that Drazah thinks that exit lag related server stuff was at least relevant to when FaZe played Toronto the other day and lost to them, right? So, you know, maybe that's a feeling that Toronto, this is one of the reasons why they've been pretty damn good online, although to be fair, it's been relatively up and down. So Bean says, what are you talking about? It's not to do with the exit lag software we're running. Holy F, you might be the chimp with a book, no BS. And then Drazah says, maybe delete it and play the game. Now, as we'll go on to see in a second here, according to Toronto, they, well, had it on, then they had it off, and it didn't really make all that much difference. Now, I did check this morning when I was up watching the Grand Prix, which was certainly one of the decisions of all time at 6 AM, whether exit lag was down or not, and reportedly it may have been, so there was a bit of talk about this, whether it went down and that's what was causing some of the issues for Toronto as of last night. So, yeah, kind of tough to say. There's some people that are looking at Toronto's explanation here and saying, well, we'd like to see a bit more proof. We'd like to hear the perspective, let's say, from the league as well. But Toronto, honestly, this is the most open that I've seen a team be with their frustrations with the league since maybe Octane in 2020, to be honest. Like, you guys remember when Octane was going on a rampage every single weekend, getting fined $10,000 a season for talking trash on the CDL. But this is pretty, like, severe stuff from Toronto. Like, they are calling them out, and there is no other way about it to say. I guess the other one was, you guys remember when the referee was washing the dishes? You guys remember that? I think, like, it was it Boston or like a scene was on the team, I think, at the time. Maybe it was Boston versus New York from Modern Warfare 3. So there's been a couple of examples, let's say. But this is a big one. So Insight says, disappointed with the outcome, but decided as a team to make it is best to take a stand. Unacceptable as a pro, being told to deal with it and the show must go on. Apologies to everyone, but, you know, these are either paraphrases or pure phrases that the league, the referees and the chat are saying, oh, you guys are lagging, you guys are suffering on the server, unlucky, deal with it. Now, the league determines the servers that are played before the games. They do testing with the teams. They come up with the server that's to be played on, and presumably they choose that server because it's okay. So if the server all of a sudden isn't okay, then the question is why? How did it get to that point? You guys know the rest. So, you know, there was obviously a bit of talk about this, about the network engineers. I know that aBeZy was getting involved as well. Man, it brings me back to talk about open, strict, and moderate NAT types. Like, yeah, I'm not really an expert on this topic, but there's obviously lots of people talking about it, and aBeZy is talking about, you know, what's good, what's bad, connectivity, ping, all these other things. So, yeah, I don't really know the technicalities of this situation. I'll share what JoeDeceives had to say, and then we'll look at his tweets.
It was fucking insane. No, I mean, Killer, trust me, I know. That's what we told them. And they said we don't have proof, and we're literally showing them proof. They said we don't have, because usually you have like a second server in case something goes wrong, and then they just told us we don't have proof. And we also told them that, because obviously people are like talking about like exit lag, oh maybe it's exit lag. We told them we would change servers with no exit lag, right? We would do no exit lag and change the server, and they still said no, because we don't have proof. So they're making us play on a laggy server. But even when exit lag was off, we were still lagging. So not like all that bullshit is just. Because obviously, you know, everyone saw Zach's tweet. I mean, I literally told him the exact same thing I'm telling you guys. Of like, bro, we tried and they just didn't let us.
So Bianca, who's the girlfriend of Nastie, she says that it's insane the players are expected to compete at this level while the league forces them to play on unfair servers. So presumably Toronto, whatever server the league chose, they weren't happy with it from the kickoff of the series. And it was obviously affecting their play. They're rubber banding, they say, pretty badly. And therefore there's some reliance on this exit lag program in order to resolve some of these issues. I mean, there's of course meant to be this ping tool, isn't there, from the league, but does that exist or really work? That's the question. So JoeDeceives had the most, damning assessment of the league, and I screenshotted some of this because I thought, it might get deleted, but it's not been as of recording. After all the BS we and other teams have been through with online servers, we are not doing this again. With how badly we're rubber banding, GG's Boston play Thieves next week. We've brought it up to the league time and time again, and nothing ever changes. If anything, the responses get worse. This is hilarious. Had my own coach recording my POV from behind me, and they still don't believe us. It's hilarious. They have integrity cameras, right? So they have cameras to make sure pros aren't cheating and stuff behind us to see all of our POVs, and they don't do anything with it. Just a useless camera behind us for fun. So that's what Joe said, and then he actually doubled down and says, sorry to the fans and everybody watching, but we can't keep letting the league get away with how bad it's being run and the terrible decisions and responses that everyone is getting. So, if in many respects Toronto are saying that we're not just doing this for us, and obviously they lost, right? So it's not like they've got a forfeit win, they've got a forfeit loss, but they're making a stand not just for themselves, but also for the rest of the teams that apparently have been suffering with similar things. Seems to affect Toronto especially, right? There was some drama the other day when they played FaZe as well with some of the delays. So it's kind of confusing, right? Like, did they choose the server to play on, and the server was not good for Toronto, but they said, we've got to play on it anyway. Then did Toronto use their exit lag program to kind of improve it, or were they using it already and then they turn it off? It's a little bit unclear because Beans gives some perspective on it as well and says, look, what should I do? Should I just play when I'm rubber banding and play what though? Like Hydrogen Bomb versus Coughing Baby for the viewers was the perspective there. The one question that I have and many others have is, okay, well, if Toronto got this POV, the coach was recording the POV of them rubber banding, can we not see it, right? Presumably they've shared it to the league. Is there an issue with us seeing that? Can we not just post it on Twitter? That would be nice. I think that would give a little bit more clarity on Toronto's side of the story. And, what does the league think about this, right? Because clearly these things have been happening for some time. And if it's also affecting other teams, it's not like there's other teams that have come out in support. I'm not denying what Toronto was saying, but, there's always two sides to a story, isn't there? And, FaZe were kind of roasting Toronto. So I'm kind of wondering, right? Toronto was saying, oh, we're taking a stand because it's been affecting other teams as well. And then Cammy's kind of saying, oh, free win, Drazah's roasting them, and it's not like you've got other players saying, oh yeah, good on them for doing so, right? That's not really happened. And Scrappy says Ben Bean's got third and thinks he's scumpy. So I don't know. I'm sure that different players and different teams will have their various perspectives on this, but in the end it was a 3-0. Toronto gets slammed. They lost the first two maps, and then the Vault they didn't even play. So Insight technically drops 19 kills over 3 maps, but obviously really over 2 maps. Still more than Kenny had in that series against Thieves though, which is still kind of crazy to look back on. But these are the games of today, and, well, we'll see if any similar drama unfolds. So, there are 3 matches this evening, and pretty big ones at that. I mean, I'm excited for pretty much all of these. Again, pretty good weekend of games, what's happening right now. So, Rocket Boston. As I said at the start of the video, this is important for the World Championship. This is Kenny's second series with the team. Boston, we know, I mean, look, how good they are based on yesterday, who really knows? But they're solid. Boston are solid enough, in my opinion, and, they're a bit of a gatekeep team to me. If you can beat Boston consistently, you can really contend. If you can't, then you can't. I think it's pretty simple as that. So, Rocker, we'll see, right? Massive series, crucial series, because if Rocket lose this one, and I don't know who I'm going to pick here, but I kind of want to lean Boston's way. Tough to say. Search and Destroy might be critical this series, but if Rocket lose, Boston get to 130 CDL points, and Minnesota are stuck at 90. And that 40-point swing is a big deal to overturn by the end of the season. FaZe, of course, are fine when it comes to the champs and stuff, but they play Ravens, a series they famously got 3-0'd by, of course, right back in the Major 1 qualifiers. This time it feels a little bit different to what it was back then. FaZe are certainly the favourites. If Ravens get, like, embarrassed, like bad, like they often do to Thieves, then it raises questions on, given that there might be some friction on the surface. I mean, there almost certainly is with the whole Vivid Kenny thing that they tried to do and never happened. So if results don't go their way, there's a question mark there. And then Surge Thieves. We've had some banger Surge Thieves series. And we know that Surge are real good, certainly online. They beat FaZe a couple of times online. They made it to the grand finals of the most recent major. This is where Thieves, I think, can put on a statement. Like, if Thieves come out this series and they demolish them, I don't think they'll demolish them, but I think they'll win. But if they put on a real clinic, I think they can make a bit of a statement. But then again, they were 7-0 in the qualifiers last time out, and it wasn't, it didn't end up as much of a statement, shall we say. But very much enjoyed your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.